Motorcycle accident in 2008. Was prescribed prescription pain medicine for 4 to 6 months, and then that's when I realized that, hey, I have a problem. I was starting to drug seek after they cut me off of them. A couple years later, I was, buying them off the street, and then money gets expensive, and then my wife started finding out, money missing here and there, and then I was introduced by a friend to, opiates or heroin and fentanyl, and then it didn't take but a year after that. Everything fell apart. My wife moved out. I hid myself from everybody and everything, and all that I lived for was that. It was dark times, man.
So, born and raised in Ohio?
Yes, I was born in Cleveland. I grew up in Parma, Ohio. That's where my mom's family was from. My dad struggled with alcoholism. That side of the family did, and it didn't take long up until I was probably 12 years old. A lot of fighting, stuff like that went on in the house, arguments, and I turned to marijuana. Did that for a long time, but what's cool now is that I know God. Even when I wasn't seeking Him, He was always there. And
yeah, it's interesting. I could look back on mine too, and I look back, I'm like, I should have died there.
Yeah.
There. That could have happened. That should have happened.
I just, like I said, he put a strong work ethic in me, because my mom was really what kept my sister and I, together through, the chaos, alcoholism, addictions, and it's just our family has struggled with that. And my mom worked 3 jobs, and it was tough when we were growing up. When my mom and dad separated is when I started working. I was 14, and from then on, I pretty much, didn't look back, man. Working in steelworkers. By the time I was 18, school, graduated, all that, but always partied, pot started it. Money was my motivating factor to get to what I thought was to get away from that. That would get me away from that life that I grew up in. I met my wife when I was in the year 2004. Everything was good, man. Family life, good job, career.
What was the career?
I was a level 2 safety inspector for OSHA, ANSI, and NFPA.
Things took a turn for you.
Yeah, they did. About 4 years into our relationship, I was drinking. I know I'd smoked. I rode motorcycles, and went out messing around on a bike I shouldn't have been on, and got in a really bad accident. Yeah, no gear, no helmet, no nothing.
How bad was it?
I fractured my back, tore my L4, my L5, broke my fibula, tore the skin off my face, like up my head right here. My Oakleys, ripped my forehead open. I skinned my hands completely off, and my wife had to take care of me, bathe me and everything for like an infant for 6 weeks. So I was on, Percocet and Vicodin for, I was taking upward to 6 to 8 of those a day, and never taking them before, just to dull the pain. I would only sleep an hour or so for about the first month and a half. My wife taking care of me.
Safe to say, addiction sunk its hooks deep in you.
It did.
At that spot. So what does that look like, man? So what happened when they stopped prescribing those?
I didn't know what addiction looked like then, Now I do, of course, but the doctor was going to cut me off of them, and I actually was able to get one more prescription off of them. I went, when my wife had walked out of the room, I went in, can you just give me one more script? And he did. And at that moment I knew, and I know now, that was the turning point. That was when it was all downhill. Drug seeking, doctors, I hurt my ankle,
Would you get them?
Yeah, oh yeah. Yep.
Hurt my ankle. Can't sleep.
Yeah.
My back hurts.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, I might as well go to the dentist.
Yeah, yeah.
Got a little cavity. You know what I mean? They give you Percocets.
That gets expensive.
That it did.
Eventually,
Hospital bills.
that runs its course. When did bad turn to worse with all that?
2010-ish or so, maybe. They were cutting people off because of the Oxycontin problem they were having. I had a friend, you know, and he was prescribed in pain management, you know. So that's how that started. I did that for a little while, for probably a year, hiding money, you know, $200 a month, you know, made good money. So I was able to hide that to buy those, but then that didn't last. Like I said, it might have lasted a year, and my wife, of course, knew who he was. You know, we were good friends. She started to notice, you know, what's going on. And then finally, you come to the point where you got to come clean. You know what I mean? You still lie a little bit, you know, but you kind of, yeah, you know, this is what's going on. I'm just in a lot of pain, honey. Just in a lot of pain. And you know, your spouse loves you. She put that into an end, and then that's when I found out what being dope sick was. And that's when I turned to the streets. I had a buddy that had made that transfer a couple years before that to heroin, and that's when I started doing that, and that was a lot cheaper. It was really potent, so I didn't need as much, and then that just it wasn't a year, and then life just fell apart. It took my wife to leave. You know, I just pushed her out the door. I would hide downstairs. You know, I had a finished basement, bathrooms. I just hide down there. You know, my son, you know, I'd be sick. Oh, it's the flu, you know, because I couldn't hide money this month because she was watching the account or whatever. She had got her own place. That was, you know, horrible. You know, I just felt lost. This is my little buddy right here. He was with me through it all. And so I went there was a thing on TV, and what was the worst mistake I made? It was a rehab in Florida. I went down to Florida, and that's when I was actually introduced to using a needle. Came home, still working, mind you. I was an aerial inspector. You know, as long as I had drugs, I was good to go. You know what I mean? And I was still working all the time, man, working on $1 million fire equipment. You know, trucks and bucket trucks and cranes. That's what I did. I inspected them. My wife then, you know, filed for divorce. Like I said, I abandoned him. I didn't give him any choice, and I know that now. But when I first got in trouble, I thought, oh, good idea. You know how I can get myself in a rehab, you know, and get help? Was I'll steal something from the fire department because I knew where the drugs were kept. And I'd never got in trouble. And then, of course, after that, shame, regret. I was like, oh no, what did I do? You know, I used the drugs, of course, though. You know, definitely did that. It was within weeks so that they knew something. You know, we had got a phone call, you know, work got involved then. And of course, denial. The rock bottom was shortly after that. It was shortly after that. This would have been coming into May of 2016. I had, like I said, it was about 2 weeks after that had happened that we'd got phone calls, and then 2 more weeks after that, police come to my house. I denied it. In that process, when they come to my house, that was like, oh man, what do I do now? You know, well, I gotta get clean. And not even clean, I gotta get help. God puts people in your life, you know, which is so awesome. And my aunt reached out to me because her son had went through he had alcoholism. He's got 5 years clean now, actually. And he went through a program called Glen Bay up in Ashtabula. So I was like, oh man, I can get away from this. I'll just get into Glen Bay, and then the cops won't come after me, you know? So I did that. I got into Glen Bay. Well, guess what? Problems were still there when I got back. And I didn't complete Glen Bay. I ended up getting heroin dropped off there. So I got kicked out of there within 15 days. Came back, still using. Cops came to the house, and then I finally broke down, and I finally came clean. And, you know, they walked me down, like they said, they were awesome. And they took me down there, they got me right out, you know, but in that window of, you know, waiting, you know, they said, we'll get you help. Well, that window was like 30 days. Well, what do I do for 30 days? Get high. And now I know God was intervening in all that, and it's just because I was gonna kill myself. the addiction was going to kill me. And there was no stopping it, and only he knows that. I went to go get, heroin, and I literally picked it up, and I got pulled over 2 seconds later,
It was clear God was saying,
Yeah.
yeah, we're done.
Yeah.
We're done
now. Yep. And so I did that. Then that's where jail started. County jail. There was no more rehabs after that. Mm-hmm. There was correctional. I won't say there was rehab facilities, but county jail based. Programs. God used it. It really did. For 10 months, I was clean, man. I got out in 2017, and my wife and I started talking again. Trying to build a relationship for our son. We started going to church. Well, the enemy comes right in, man, to seek, kill, and destroy. And he wasn't done taking shots at me. I started working for a guy right when I got out of the program, and somebody I knew, partied with in the past. You would think not a good idea, right? But I got to provide for my family. Well, I go to work with them, and that's where I learned to paint. He was using, co-workers was using, but they were using methamphetamines. So I'm like, oh, wow, I didn't do that. It was just a crazy madness for about a month. And then I ended up, there was God come right in, I started learning who Jesus was in the church while I was doing that, you know what I mean? Thinking I had it together. And I was still, because of the program I was at, I still had to drop. I had to do urine analysis. So I got dropped, thrown back in jail for 30 days. Well, in that 30-day, window of being in jail for the last time, that was rock bottom. That was like, wow, what did I do? I was doing so good, and in that, it was so cool. It's just, it says, for I know the plans I have for you. Everybody loves that verse. And, he does, man, and he put me in a cell with 3 other guys that were reading the Bible. So, and I had heard what it meant to be saved, to give my life to Christ. And in the first 2 weeks, I was like, that was it. I heard my wife on the phone, broken, man. Why? Not understanding, lost. Why did you do this again? So I broke down, man, and I was like, oh, here's where I'm going to change, and I gave my life to Christ.
So here you're incarcerated.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Jesus meets you in jail.
Yeah, man.
You surrender your life.
I did, yes.
And your life begins to be transformed rather quickly.
Yes.
What does that look like?
As I said, I gave my life to Christ. I got out, and he was just opening doors for me. I came to that surrender point finally. I did some classes, Thinking for a Change, Thinking Errors. I had a counselor, a therapist, and he put all these things in play to build me up and to a new creation, as he says. And they had talked to the church for another guy for me to work with as far as a mentor, spiritual mentor. And I ended up getting plugged into food ministry.
Daily,
yes.
What do these tools look like in real time? Yep. On a daily basis?
Yeah, it was prayer. I'd get up every morning. I still do it to this day, man. I get up and I pray. I listen. All I listen to now is worship, and it's just how God has renewed my mind. And I read scripture now. I listen to the Bible. I get up at 5 a.m. with my little buddy here, take him outside.
Smokey.
Yep, Smokey Puppy. I get up with him every morning at 5 a.m. I do not waver from that. I don't get, one day I'll do it this day, I'll do it tonight. No, it's 7 days a week. I do it every day. And every day it's just, practical steps. If I can help people, I go out and do ministry in the streets, people that are homeless, other addicts, from God building me up, it's now let me be able to help people in that way, to give back. A daily thing though, moment by moment. He's given me everything back.
You and your wife got divorced.
Oh yeah.
And you are now
remarried.
Yes.
Yes, yeah, restoration. Through the church, through him, he wiped out over $3,000 worth of fines. For me, it takes my free will to give him my will for his. Mm-hmm. And that's just
It's a pretty good exchange.
It's amazing exchange, brother. And now all I look for is like, what in my prayer life, what are you gonna do now, God? When I go outside with the dog, I love the stars. Lord knows I love the stars. I just look up at them and I just talk to the Lord, and what today? What encounter are we gonna have? And it's just amazing, the things He shows me. Now, that doesn't happen from sitting here on the couch. That happens to get into the field and to go give back. And the more I give to Him, the more He reveals Himself to me every day.